Eyeballs Nation, we have a trade to discuss. Lonzo Ball has been traded for Isaac Okoro, and that's it. No draft assets being swapped whatsoever, but I am pretty disappointed in this trade. I think this is overall a bad trade. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing why I think this is a bad trade for the Chicago Bulls. Two big reasons why is the overall process of this deal and kind of showing what the Bulls process is overall as trying to build a team. And then the salary situation when it comes to this is the two big reasons why it's a bad deal, at least in my opinion. And then after I discuss why I think this is a bad deal for the Bulls, I'm going to discuss what I think Isaac Okoro can bring to the Bulls and what I think Lonzo's going to bring to the Cavs here. But yeah, I overall think this is a very bad deal by the Bulls. I'm not even going to ask for a like on this video. It's just going to be a rant. But if you want to leave a like to help my Bulls fandom depression, I'd appreciate it. But Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro. Let's just start off with these two players. Let's learn about them. So Lonzo Ball, I mean, he miraculously came back last season from his injury. I honestly thought his career was over, so it was an absolute miracle that he came back, and I'm so happy that he did come back. But he still only played 35 games. He dealt with the wrist injury early on in the season and also late into the season that kept him out for a lot of games overall throughout the year. He missed the last 23 games of last season, so I understand like that's definitely going to tank his value. Like I'm not here saying that Lonzo Ball should have been traded for like a first round pick or anything like that. I'm not here saying that, but either way, I'm aware like Lonzo Ball's value did probably tank because of his lack of health, and I understand that like health is a big factor when it comes to trade value. For Isaac Okoro, he's probably coming off of his worst season as a pro. As you can see here, he also played the least amount of games in the season as a pro, so that's not great. So Okoro is having like right now his his trade value overall is at its lowest. Like his stock is way down, and you can just kind of see overall from the numbers like this is probably his worst season as a pro. And so the Bulls decided to trade Lonzo Ball, who we knew that the Bulls could have gotten a first round pick for him at the trade deadline this past season, and it's really disappointing to see that you decided to trade Lonzo Ball for a guy right now in Isaac Okoro, who again is coming off his worst season and his trade stock is at its lowest. So I don't understand this whole process whatsoever. Like the fact that you're willing to trade a guy in Lonzo, who, yes, I am aware that his injuries are a problem right now and that's going to tank his value, but you're trading him for a guy that is yet again coming off his trade value overall is low, and you're just deciding to give up a guy that could have better trade value in Lonzo Ball for a guy right now who his trade value is at his lowest. I just hate that process a lot by the Bulls. There's, I think, different ways that you can go and get a guy who has current low trade value, but that's a different discussion. But overall, I just don't understand this process at all because, at least in my opinion, that the Bulls are trying to take this risk with the Okoro, which I don't really understand the upside whatsoever. Any trade where the Bulls don't at least add to their long-term upside, I think is just overall a negative, in my opinion. This trade, I think, is raising the floor for the Bulls, but I don't care about that. I think the Bulls need to look long-term, and this, at least in my opinion, is not looking long-term. This is adding a guy that is going to play more games than Ball, most likely, this upcoming season, so it raises your floor as a team, which I don't personally care about, but of course the Bulls front office does. But the process overall by this Bulls team when it comes to this trade is just horrible. You're skipping steps again. You're trading for guys that are young with experience, which is the most BS term ever, or idea ever. I can't stand that idea by this Bulls front office. But that's the process, is that we're not going to go after draft assets, which is a problem, but instead we're going to go target young guys with experience. So yet again, a guy in Okoro who basically got played off of the playoff floor because of his lack of impact. But he got playoff experience, so we get a young guy who is soon going to be 25 in his age 25 season, which I don't really consider young, but for AK and Mark Eversley, it's young guys with experience. So I guess he fits the bill. At least in my opinion, the process that the Bulls should have done with Lonzo is that I think you should have just kept them and try to see if you could raise his trade value. Like we were told that, hey, he could have been traded for a first round pick this past deadline and he was making $20 million. Well, now he's on a very team friendly deal, and I think there's very low risk in doing this with Lonzo, where you keep him for the start of the season, see if you can raise his trade value again, and then trade him then. If he doesn't or is not able to, or he gets injured, well, guess what? You have a team option on him, so you can just go ahead and just trade or decline that team option, and his money is not on the books for next season. So overall, again, it's just the process by this Bulls team is just bad, and which is one big reason why I think this is a bad deal by the Chicago Bulls. But the big kicker of why I think this is a bad deal by the Bulls is the whole contract situation here. Okay, when I first saw this tweet by Shams and I reacted to it, I'm just like, it's very just meh. Like, it's nothing spectacular. It's not good. I think there's definitely worse things you could do. Which is the reason why I didn't say initially it was bad, but it's just okay at best. Very meh. It's just definitely a very AK typical move. But at least in my head, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I thought in my head, Okoro's contract was up after this upcoming season. But nope, that's not the case, okay? Okoro's on the books for next season at $11.8 million. And so, in this trade by the Bulls, okay, let's remove health for a second here. The Bulls traded the best player in this trade, and they also traded the best contract in this trade, okay, and got the worst player in this trade and the worst contract in this trade. And they did not get any bit of draft capital or any sort of compensation whatsoever from it. That's a problem by this Bulls team. The contract situation as a whole with this trade is a problem, because the other part about this contract problem for this trade is this. So mind you, like, you know, we're getting the worst contract in this deal. That's a bad overall just process by the Bulls. And again, it's the worst player also in this deal, at least in my opinion. But this deal added on $11.8 million guaranteed to the 2026-27 season for the Bulls in terms of their salary cap, okay? This is the offseason, the 2026 offseason, where the Bulls are supposed to have a bunch of salary cap space. But you just added $11.8 million guaranteed to the salary cap in Isaac Okoro for that 2026 season. So you just added $11.8 million guaranteed to the salary cap for that season. And if Isaac Okoro comes in and has a bad season overall, then guess what? You're still on the books for even more money that you're paying him than this upcoming season. Okay, this is bad by the Bulls. When I figured this part out, and I don't know why I thought Okoro was on an expiring deal, but when it came to this part, this is where officially it became a bad trade for me. Where I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me. You added on, the Bulls in this trade, they added on long-term, or I guess not long-term, but they added on $11.8 million in salary to their 2026 salary cap, and they didn't get any draft compensation in return or any sort of young prospect in return whatsoever. I want this Bulls team to go ahead and add long or bad salaries or just salary to that 2026 salary cap, but obviously I would want, you know, a return of like draft assets or young prospects in return for that, like salary dumping for what we see the Brooklyn Nets are doing in terms of, you know, taking on contracts for salary for draft picks. Like, that's what I want this Bulls team to do. Very clearly, this Bulls team is not going to do that because they very clearly do not value draft assets whatsoever. And hell, just showing this trade alone shows that. But they also just showed that they just traded back 10 spots in the second round for cash, of course. But the biggest thing overall that really makes me upset is, like, I know a lot of people are just like, oh, Duncan, it's just $11.8 million, Duncan. It's not that big of a deal. It's just $11.8 million, Duncan. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Well, if it's just $11.8 million, then would you be fine the Bulls adding another $11.8 million to the 2026 salary cap then? Like, sure, I mean, you just told me it's just $11.8 million, Duncan. It's not that big of a deal, right? So, sure, let's just add another $11.8 million then, because apparently it's not that big of a deal, right? Now, all of a sudden, you've added $23 million to your salary cap. Again, this is supposed to be the offseason where the Bulls have a bunch of salary cap space. You're adding on to that salary, you're just taking away salary cap space, and you haven't gotten any draft assets at all, and you just added in guaranteed money to it. That's a problem, because again, apparently that's not big of a deal for some people, but for someone like me, it is a big deal, because here's an example. The Brooklyn Nets just took on Terrence Mann's contract of $15.5 million this upcoming season, and they got a first-round pick out of it. So, oh, don't worry, it's just $11.8 million, but look, see, like, this is an example of what I want the Bulls to do, but very clearly they don't care about this, which is it's just basically sounding a big alarm bells in my head. I am very, very, very nervous for what this Bulls team is going to do next, because they clearly are not looking to add any sort of draft capital. And you wonder the reason why I'm so pessimistic about this Bulls team moving forward? It's because of stuff just like this, okay? It's a trade just like this where you don't value any draft assets, you don't value your salary cap space to try to turn it into draft assets or young prospects in like their 19 or 20 seasons, right? They just don't care about that, but instead you're betting on a guy like Okoro, who he's gonna soon be 25 here. It's gonna be his age 25 season, and I don't really see at all what the upside is in this deal. Like, you're basically hoping that a 25-year-old is gonna be able to somehow figure things out suddenly and turn into like a good two-way player. And I'm like, what? Like, this is not the sort of bet that I would personally be looking to do. And especially if it adds on long-term salary or salary in your 2026 offseason, like, this should not be the year where you're adding on these sort of contracts or taking a risk on a guy like Okoro and having him be on like a multi-year contract. Like, this is actually the one time actually where you want him to be on like a smaller contract, because this is the one offseason you're supposed to have the salary cap space. Like, if the Bulls traded Caruso for Giddey and Giddey had 2 years left on his deal, it would have been great because the Bulls are over the salary cap. But instead, somehow the Bulls found a way to mess it up, where the one time that you're going to be adding a guy like Okoro in, and he's actually on a multi-year deal, when it's usually that's a good thing, but it's actually the one time it's a bad thing, because you're supposed to have salary cap space this upcoming season, and I don't think Okoro, like, he was benched last season. He's, to me, a bench player, so if he has a bad season, which I think is a pretty big risk, then, look, all of a sudden you have to pay him that money for, it's guaranteed for the 2026 season. It's eating into your salary cap space. To me, the risk is absolutely not worth the reward, and I'm pretty overall pissed at this deal. So, those are the big reasons why I think that this is a bad deal by the Chicago Bulls. Now, when it comes to Isaac Okoro and what he could bring to this Bulls, so I don't want this just to be a bash Okoro video, but unfortunately, like, he had his worst season as a pro, at least in my opinion. So you just kind of look at the stats, like, between him and Patrick Williams, like, they're just both very disappointing players. Combined, they're going to be making $29 million this upcoming season, so can't wait for that. But just looking overall, he doesn't really rebound. He's not going to be really assisting because he doesn't have the ball in his hands. The couple of things, though, that a lot of people talk about is like, oh, hey, he's, a good defender. Some people even call him like a lockdown defender, and I'm probably wrong about this, guys. Like, I'm even going to probably say I am wrong about this, but at least in my opinion, I think Okoro's defense is kind of overrated. He's not really what I like to call a defensive playmaker. Like, when people talk about his defense sometimes, I think like, oh, this guy must be averaging like a steal and a half at least per game, and like really coming in and like locking down his guy. But I don't really know if that's really the case. I mean, he hasn't even averaged a steal per game in a season yet. He got to 0.9 his rookie year. He doesn't really average that many block shots, so that makes sense. So he's more of a perimeter guy. But like, I think his defense is kind of overrated. That's not me saying he's a bad defender, but I think that this whole idea that he's like an elite defender or something, I think he's more so just a good defender. So I think his overall value in defense, at least in my opinion, is a little bit lower, at least in my head. And the other thing that people talk about when it comes to Okoro is like, oh, look, his three-point percentage. Like, he shoots a good three-point percentage. Well, the problem is that I've always said this, like, unless you're shooting a lot of threes, like, I don't really care what percentage you're at here. So yeah, like, he's increased his three-point percentage, like, especially from his rookie season, but he doesn't really take a lot of threes. Even if you actually go look at the stats here, I'm gonna try to see if I can quickly pull him up, but like, he isn't really a guy that is gonna come in and like shoot a bunch of three-point shots. And especially if there's a defender in his face. Like, this is a guy that most of his threes are like open or wide open threes that he takes, and those are the ones that he usually makes. But when there's a defender even like anywhere in the vicinity of him, he's not really that good of a three-point shooter. In fact, like, he doesn't really even kind of make any. So I really don't value his three-point percentage until proven otherwise, like, or his overall three-point game, because he doesn't take a lot, right? But he also, like, he doesn't really shoot them unless he's like actually wide open, and that I think is a big problem overall, because that basically allows the defense to just kind of leave you, and they clearly don't value your three-point shooting, so why should we value that either? So I'm kind of concerned overall. I'll pull up these stats at a different time for Okoro here, but I'm not really valuing this three-point shot like how other people are. So what I do think Okoro can bring, again, is like hopefully good point of attack defense, get through screens, go out on the fast break and be an option in the fast break for this team. He'll definitely fill in some forward minutes, but I don't really want minutes to be taken away from Buzelis and Asenge, so not really thrilled about that idea. But if he can maybe replace Patrick Williams and just be better than P. Will, then sure, I guess that's a win. But I really hope they can figure it out here. Like, I know I'm kind of like bashing him here, but again, he just had his worst season as a pro. But I don't really think there's much really to say that's positive about him, unfortunately, besides maybe good defense, which again, I'm probably wrong about him being overrated as a defender. He's probably a pretty good or maybe even great defender. But from what I've seen, he's just been a pretty big disappointment in his career. Again, 5th overall pick, same draft class as Patrick Williams, but he's not really hit his potential at all, besides maybe being a good defender, and has not really contributed in any other areas. So overall, pretty massive disappointment for Isaac Okoro, and so the Bulls are taking this risk on him. But again, he's not like he's 19 or 20; he's 25 this upcoming season. For Lonzo, I hope nothing but the best for him, man. I'm happy he's going to go play for a contender in the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think he's going to come off the bench, and the Cavs going to really value his three-point shooting and his off-ball defensive level, or level of impact there. Yes, the health is definitely a concern, but I hope he's going to have a really healthy season for Cleveland and be an impactful player. I think he's going to work off well off the guards there with Garland and Mitchell, which we'll see if those two are still there, but I do think Mitchell at least will still be there. And so I think if Mitchell's still there at least, and, you know, maybe Lonzo's like running the two, I think it's going to be a pretty impactful lineup, especially with their bigs down there. So I hope nothing but the best for Lonzo. He's going to come and help in the fast break for Cleveland as well. And I hope he's going to go and have a really healthy season, because I know it's been a while since that's happened. So good luck to Lonzo, and good luck to Isaac Okoro, man. I'm not thrilled with this trade. I think it's overall a bad trade, but I hope Okoro can prove me wrong here. But at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. Agree or disagree with me, you can leave in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for listening to this rant. Not happy about this deal, but I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.